My parents thought they could steal my $500,000 trust fund to bankroll my brother's failing startup without me ever finding out. What they didn't expect was for the bank manager to call me directly with information that would expose their deception and ultimately destroy everything they had built. I didn't argue or create drama. I simply disappeared from their lives forever, but not before ensuring they faced the full consequences of their betrayal. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning at exactly 9:47 a.m. while I was reviewing quarterly financial reports in my corner office overlooking downtown Seattle. The caller ID displayed First National Trust Services, which immediately caught my attention since I had not initiated any recent contact with the institution that managed my grandmother's trust fund. The professional voice on the other end belonged to Margaret Chen, the senior trust manager who had overseen my account for the past 3 years. Ms. Victoria Ashford, I apologize for the unexpected call, but there are some concerning irregularities with your trust account that require immediate discussion. Could you arrange to meet with me this afternoon? This matter cannot be addressed over the phone due to the sensitive nature of the issues involved. The formal tone and urgent timing suggested something far more serious than routine administrative matters. I had been expecting to access my trust fund in 6 months when I turned 28, the age specified in my grandmother's carefully constructed estate planning documents. The fund had been established to provide financial independence for her granddaughters, reflecting her belief that women needed economic security to make authentic choices about their lives and careers. I agreed to meet Margaret at 2 o'clock that afternoon, though her reluctance to discuss details over the phone created an undercurrent of anxiety that persisted throughout the morning. My grandmother, Eleanor Ashford, had been a pioneering businesswoman who built a successful textile manufacturing company during an era when few women achieved such professional prominence. Her legacy represented more than financial resources. It embodied principles of independence, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to family welfare. The trust fund had been structured to provide each granddaughter with substantial capital upon reaching age 28, an age Eleanor had determined represented sufficient maturity for responsible financial stewardship. The timing was intended to coincide with career establishment and life experience that would enable wise utilization of the inheritance for long-term security and personal fulfillment. During the drive to the bank, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this moment of anticipated financial independence. My career as a marketing director at a technology consulting firm had developed steadily over the past 5 years, providing both professional satisfaction and sufficient income to support myself without family assistance. The trust fund represented freedom to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities or make life choices based on personal values rather than economic necessity. My relationship with my family had been complicated by years of witnessing preferential treatment toward my younger brother Daniel, who had consistently received financial support and encouragement that I had never experienced. My parents, Robert and Patricia Ashford, had funded Daniel's college education, supported his various business ventures, and provided ongoing financial assistance whenever he encountered difficulties. The contrast in their treatment had been apparent since childhood but became more pronounced during our university years. While I worked multiple part-time jobs to minimize student loan obligations and graduated with modest debt that I repaid within 3 years, Daniel received full tuition support, living expenses, and additional funding for study abroad programs and internships that enhanced his resume and professional connections. After graduation, the disparity continued as my parents invested in Daniel's first business venture, a social media marketing agency that struggled to attract clients and generate sustainable revenue. When that enterprise failed after 18 months, they provided capital for his second attempt, a food truck operation that proved equally unsuccessful despite their substantial financial backing and ongoing operational support. Throughout these years, I had built my career through personal effort and strategic decisions that demonstrated the independence and work ethic that my grandmother had valued. I had been promoted twice, earned professional certifications that enhanced my expertise, and established a reputation for delivering results that exceeded client expectations. My success had been achieved without family financial assistance, creating pride in my accomplishments while simultaneously highlighting the differential support my brother continued to receive. The trust fund represented validation of my grandmother's belief in my capabilities and recognition of the effort I had invested in building professional competence and personal character. Eleanor had known me well enough to understand my values and aspirations, and her decision to structure the inheritance as it was reflected her confidence in my ability to utilize the resources wisely. Margaret Chen's office reflected the conservative professionalism typical of established financial institutions, with mahogany furniture, traditional artwork, and an atmosphere of discretion that reassured wealthy clients about the security of their assets. She greeted me with polite formality, though her expression suggested concern about the conversation we were about to have. "Ms. Ashford, thank you for meeting with me on such short notice. What I need to discuss with you represents a serious breach of fiduciary responsibility that has potentially significant legal implications for all parties involved." She paused to allow the gravity of her statement to register before continuing with details that would forever change my understanding of my family dynamics. "3 months ago, your father contacted our office claiming to represent your interests regarding early distribution of trust assets. He presented documentation that appeared to authorize withdrawal of funds for investment in a business venture that he described as being undertaken on your behalf. The paperwork included what appeared to be your signature authorizing the transaction." The initial shock of this revelation was followed immediately by anger and disbelief as I processed the implications of what Margaret was describing. My father had attempted to access my inheritance through fraudulent documentation, violating both legal and ethical boundaries that governed fiduciary relationships. "I never signed any such authorization," I stated firmly. "I have had no communication with your office regarding early distribution, and I certainly did not approve any business investment using trust assets." What exactly was withdrawn from the account? Margaret's expression reflected both professional concern and personal sympathy as she delivered information that revealed the full scope of my father's deception. "The withdrawal request was for $500,000, representing the majority of your trust balance. However, our compliance procedures require verification of signature authenticity for transactions of this magnitude, which is why I am contacting you directly." The systematic nature of the attempted fraud indicated planning and premeditation that went far beyond impulsive poor judgment. My father had researched the trust structure, obtained account information, and created falsified documentation with sufficient sophistication to initially pass preliminary review by bank personnel. During our verification process, we discovered discrepancies in the signature that raised questions about document authenticity. When we attempted to contact you directly for confirmation, we discovered that the contact information provided by your father was incorrect, listing a phone number and address that did not match our records for your account. This additional layer of deception revealed the calculated nature of the scheme and my father's awareness that his actions would not withstand scrutiny if I learned about them directly. He had attempted to create a communication barrier that would prevent the bank from reaching me while the fraudulent transaction was processed. "What is the current status of the withdrawal request?" I asked, though I suspected that Margaret's call indicated the transaction had been suspended pending resolution of the authentication issues. "The transaction has been frozen pending investigation, and we have reported the matter to our legal department for evaluation of potential criminal charges. No funds have been withdrawn from your account, and we have implemented additional security measures to prevent any future unauthorized access attempts." The professional efficiency with which the bank had handled the situation provided some reassurance, though it did not diminish the emotional impact of discovering my father's willingness to steal from me to support my brother's business ventures. The betrayal represented more than financial misconduct. It revealed fundamental disrespect for my rights and his readiness to sacrifice my financial security for Daniel's benefit. "I appreciate your diligence in protecting my interests," I responded. "What legal options are available for addressing this attempted fraud? And what documentation do you need from me to support any criminal charges that might be filed?" Margaret explained that the bank would cooperate fully with law enforcement investigation, and that my cooperation as the victim would be essential for successful prosecution. The sophisticated nature of the fraud attempt, including falsified documentation and deliberate provision of incorrect contact information, supported charges that carried serious potential penalties. "I would recommend consulting with an attorney who specializes in financial crimes to understand your options and ensure your interests are properly protected throughout the investigation process." We will provide all documentation and evidence necessary to support legal proceedings, should you choose to pursue them. The conversation concluded with arrangements for securing my account and implementing additional verification procedures for any future transactions. Margaret assured me that the attempted fraud had been contained without financial loss and that the trust assets remained intact and available for legitimate distribution, according to the original terms established by my grandmother. During the drive back to my office, I processed the implications of what I had learned while developing a strategic response that would address both the immediate legal issues and the broader family relationship dynamics that this incident had revealed. My father's actions represented a fundamental violation of trust that could not be overlooked or forgiven through simple family reconciliation. The calculated nature of the fraud attempt indicated that my parents viewed me as a resource to be exploited for Daniel's benefit rather than as a family member deserving of respect and consideration. Their willingness to steal my inheritance demonstrated priorities and values that were incompatible with maintaining meaningful family relationships. More significantly, the incident revealed that my parents had been planning to divert my inheritance without my knowledge or consent, presumably intending to present me with accomplished facts that would be difficult to reverse after the funds had been invested in Daniel's business ventures. The sophistication of their scheme suggested coordination and premeditation that extended beyond impulsive poor judgment. That evening, I contacted Patricia Morrison, an attorney who specialized in financial fraud and family law, to discuss legal options for addressing the attempted theft while protecting my interests during any subsequent family interactions. Patricia's initial assessment confirmed that my father's actions constituted serious criminal offenses that warranted prosecution, regardless of family relationships. The sophistication of the fraud attempt, including falsified signatures and deliberately incorrect contact information, demonstrates clear criminal intent that goes well beyond family financial disagreements, Patricia explained. The fact that he attempted to steal such a substantial amount suggests that this was planned carefully over an extended period. Her recommendation was to cooperate fully with the criminal investigation while simultaneously pursuing civil remedies that would ensure full accountability for the attempted theft. The legal process would provide formal documentation of my father's actions, while establishing clear boundaries regarding future interactions. You should also consider whether other family members were involved in planning or executing this scheme, Patricia advised. Bank fraud of this sophistication typically requires assistance with document preparation and knowledge of account details that your father might not have possessed independently. This observation raised questions about my mother's and brother's knowledge of or participation in the attempted fraud. While I had no direct evidence of their involvement, the systematic nature of the scheme suggested coordination that might have extended beyond my father's individual efforts. The investigation process would likely reveal the full scope of family involvement, while providing legal remedies that would ensure accountability for all participants. Regardless of the emotional difficulty involved in pursuing criminal charges against family members, the severity of their actions and the calculated nature of the deception warranted formal legal response. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As I prepared for the challenges ahead, I reflected on how this incident validated my grandmother's wisdom in structuring the trust to provide independence and security for her granddaughters. Eleanor had understood that financial autonomy was essential for making authentic life choices, and her careful estate planning had protected my inheritance from the family dynamics that might otherwise have compromised my future security. The attempted theft had revealed my family's true priorities and values, while simultaneously providing an opportunity to establish clear boundaries that would protect my interests and personal well-being going forward. The legal process would be difficult, but it represented the only appropriate response to such serious violations of trust and criminal behavior. Looking back at this moment 6 months later, I understood that Margaret Chen's phone call had marked the beginning of a journey toward complete independence from family relationships that had been characterized by manipulation and exploitation, rather than genuine care and support. The trust fund theft attempt had provided the clarity needed to make difficult but necessary decisions about my future. The path that led to my grandmother's trust fund and my eventual discovery of my family's betrayal began 28 years earlier in the affluent suburbs of Portland, Oregon, where I was born into circumstances that appeared privileged from the outside, but masked a complex web of favoritism and conditional love that would shape my character in unexpected ways. My earliest memories center around my grandmother Eleanor's visits to our family home, occasions that brought a sense of warmth and genuine interest that contrasted sharply with the emotional climate my parents typically maintained. Eleanor Ashford possessed the rare combination of business acumen and nurturing wisdom that comes from building success while never forgetting the importance of family relationships and personal values. During these childhood visits, Eleanor would spend hours listening to my observations about school, friends, and the books I was reading, with an attention that made me feel valued and understood. She asked thoughtful questions about my interests and encouraged me to think critically about the world around me, fostering intellectual curiosity that would prove essential for my future professional development. The contrast between Eleanor's engagement and my parents' distracted responses to my achievements became apparent early in my elementary school years. When I brought home report cards with straight-A grades or awards for academic excellence, my parents would offer brief acknowledgments before redirecting their attention to Daniel's activities or their own professional concerns. Eleanor, however, would celebrate these accomplishments with genuine enthusiasm and meaningful conversations about what I had learned and how the knowledge might be applied to future challenges. Her validation provided emotional sustenance that helped me maintain motivation for academic excellence, despite the lukewarm reception my achievements received at home. The birth of my brother Daniel when I was 4 years old marked a fundamental shift in family dynamics that would influence every subsequent interaction within our household. From the moment Daniel arrived, my parents' attention and emotional energy became focused primarily on his needs, development, and eventual achievements, leaving me to navigate childhood and adolescence with minimal guidance or support. This transformation was gradual but unmistakable, as family conversations increasingly centered around Daniel's milestones, preferences, and activities, while my accomplishments became background information that warranted polite acknowledgement rather than genuine celebration. The difference was subtle enough that outsiders might not have noticed, but profound enough to shape my understanding of my place within the family structure. My response to this dynamic was to become increasingly self-reliant and focused on activities that provided internal satisfaction rather than external validation. I discovered that academic excellence offered both intellectual stimulation and objective measures of competence that did not depend on family recognition or approval for their meaning and value. Reading became my refuge and primary source of learning about possibilities that extended far beyond my immediate environment. I consumed books about successful women in business, science, and politics, developing an understanding of how individual determination and strategic thinking could overcome various forms of adversity and limitation. The public library became my second home during middle school and high school years, as I researched topics that interested me and sought guidance that was unavailable through family channels. Librarians became informal mentors who recommended books, helped me locate resources, and encouraged my intellectual development through their expertise and genuine interest in my learning progress. My academic performance remained consistently excellent throughout elementary and middle school, earning recognition from teachers who appreciated my work ethic and analytical thinking abilities. These relationships provided the encouragement and validation that was largely absent from my home environment, while building confidence in my capabilities that would prove essential for future challenges. High school brought new opportunities to demonstrate leadership and develop skills that would support my professional aspirations. I participated in debate team, student government, and academic competitions that tested my ability to research complex topics, articulate positions clearly, and work effectively with others toward common objectives. These extracurricular activities provided practical experience with public speaking, project management, and collaborative problem-solving that complemented my classroom learning while building a foundation for future career success. More importantly, they demonstrated that I could excel in competitive environments when given opportunities to apply my capabilities effectively. The contrast between my academic achievements and Daniel's mediocre school performance became increasingly apparent as we progressed through our respective educational experiences. While I maintained high grades and earned recognition from teachers and academic organizations, Daniel struggled with coursework and required additional tutoring and support to meet minimum requirements. My parents' response to these differences was to emphasize Daniel's social skills and athletic abilities, while downplaying the significance of academic achievement as a predictor of future success. They argued that Daniel's personality and interpersonal capabilities would serve him well in business environments where relationships often mattered more than technical competence. This rationalization reflected their investment in maintaining the narrative that both children possessed equal potential despite obvious differences in motivation, work ethic, and actual performance. The cognitive dissonance required to sustain this perspective suggested deeper psychological needs that superseded objective assessment of our respective capabilities and prospects. Eleanor observed these family dynamics with growing concern and frustration as my parents' favoritism became more pronounced over time. During private conversations with me, she would express pride in my accomplishments, while encouraging me to maintain focus on my own development, rather than seeking approval from family members who seemed incapable of providing appropriate recognition and support. Victoria, your parents love you both, but they have difficulty seeing beyond their own expectations and fears, Eleanor explained during one particularly memorable conversation when I was 16. Your success represents something that makes them uncomfortable because it challenges their assumptions about what children should be and how families should function. Her insights helped me understand that my parents' responses to my achievements reflected their limitations rather than my inadequacies. This perspective shift allowed me to maintain motivation for continued excellence, while reducing the emotional impact of their consistent preference for Daniel's company and attention to his needs. Eleanor's support extended beyond emotional encouragement to include practical assistance with college preparation and career planning. She helped me research universities, review application materials, and develop strategies for financing my education that would minimize dependence on my parents' financial contributions or approval. The college application process revealed the full extent of my parents' different expectations for Daniel and me regarding higher education and future careers. While they actively researched schools for Daniel and discussed funding options that would ensure his educational needs were fully met, they approached my college planning as an expensive burden that I should manage independently. When I announced my acceptance to Northwestern University with a partial scholarship covering 60% of tuition costs, my parents' response was lukewarm congratulations, followed immediately by concerns about the remaining financial obligations and suggestions that I consider less expensive alternatives closer to home. Eleanor's reaction was entirely different, as she celebrated my achievement and immediately began discussing how she could assist with the remaining educational expenses. Her willingness to invest in my future represented more than financial support. It demonstrated belief in my potential and recognition that education represented the foundation for lifelong independence and success. Your education is an investment in your future that will provide returns throughout your entire career, Eleanor explained as we discussed funding strategies. I want to ensure that you have every opportunity to develop your capabilities without the burden of excessive debt that might limit your choices after graduation. Her support made it possible for me to attend Northwestern without accumulating the substantial student loan obligations that would have constrained my career choices and delayed my financial independence. More importantly, her investment represented validation that my academic achievements merited serious consideration and substantial commitment from family members who understood their significance. The summer before college provided time for reflection about the journey ahead and the challenges I would face in establishing my identity independent of family dynamics that had shaped my self-perception throughout childhood and adolescence. Eleanor encouraged me to view this transition as an opportunity to discover my authentic interests and capabilities without the influence of family expectations or limitations. My departure for Northwestern marked the beginning of a new chapter characterized by unprecedented freedom to explore academic interests, develop professional skills, and build relationships with peers who shared similar intellectual curiosity and career ambitions. The university environment provided validation that my academic abilities were indeed exceptional, rather than merely adequate as family responses had suggested. College coursework challenged me in ways that high school had not, requiring sophisticated analytical thinking and independent research capabilities that pushed me to develop new levels of competence and confidence. My professors recognized my potential and provided mentorship that accelerated my intellectual development, while opening doors to research opportunities and advanced learning experiences. The marketing program at Northwestern's Kellogg School provided excellent preparation for careers in business strategy and consumer research, fields that aligned perfectly with my interests in understanding human behavior and developing systematic approaches to complex problems. My coursework emphasized data analysis, strategic planning, and communication skills that would prove essential for professional success. Internships during college provided practical experience with real business challenges while building professional networks that would support my career development after graduation. These opportunities allowed me to apply classroom learning to actual projects while demonstrating my capabilities to potential employers and industry professionals. My academic performance at Northwestern consistently ranked in the top 10% of my class, earning recognition through Dean's List honors and academic scholarships that provided additional financial support. These achievements validated my decision to pursue challenging educational opportunities despite my parents' lukewarm support and preference for less ambitious alternatives. The contrast between my college experience and Daniel's continued struggles with basic coursework at the state university where my parents had enrolled him became increasingly apparent as we both progressed through our respective programs. While I thrived in competitive academic environments, Daniel required constant support and remedial assistance to maintain minimum grade requirements. My parents' response to these differences was to emphasize the value of Daniel's social development and networking opportunities while minimizing the significance of academic performance as a predictor of professional success. They argued that business success depended more on personality and relationship building than technical competence or analytical capabilities. This rationalization became increasingly difficult to sustain, as my internship experiences provided concrete evidence of professional competence, while Daniel's college performance suggested ongoing challenges with basic responsibility and self-discipline. The objective measures of our respective capabilities made it difficult to maintain the fiction that we possessed equal potential for career success. Eleanor continued to provide encouragement and practical support throughout my college years, celebrating my achievements and helping me plan for the transition to professional employment after graduation. Her belief in my capabilities provided emotional stability that sustained me through challenging coursework and competitive environments. Senior year brought opportunities to interview with major corporations, seeking talented graduates for entry-level positions in marketing and business development. My academic record, internship experience, and interview performance resulted in multiple job offers from respected companies that provided excellent foundations for career advancement. The decision to accept a position with Meridian Technology Consulting in Seattle represented the culmination of 4 years of focused preparation and strategic planning. The role offered challenging projects, excellent compensation, and opportunities for rapid advancement based on performance and contribution to client success. My graduation from Northwestern with magna cum laude honors marked the achievement of goals that had seemed uncertain when I first began college with limited family support and financial resources. Eleanor's presence at the graduation ceremony represented the culmination of years of encouragement and investment in my future success. The transition to professional employment in Seattle provided geographic distance from family dynamics, while offering opportunities to build an independent life based on personal values and career objectives rather than family expectations or limitations. This freedom allowed me to discover authentic interests and develop relationships with colleagues who appreciated my capabilities and contributions. Looking back at these formative years, I recognize that my family's favoritism toward Daniel had inadvertently provided valuable lessons about self-reliance and internal motivation that proved essential for professional success. Their lack of support forced me to develop independence and resilience that served me well in competitive business environments. The transition from Northwestern University to my role as a junior marketing analyst at Meridian Technology Consulting represented more than geographical relocation to Seattle. This move marked my entry into a professional environment where competence and results determined advancement opportunities rather than family connections or inherited advantages. The corporate culture at Meridian emphasized merit-based recognition and provided clear pathways for career development that aligned perfectly with my analytical approach to professional growth. Meridian Technology Consulting specialized in helping mid-sized technology companies develop market entry strategies, optimize customer acquisition processes, and implement data-driven marketing approaches that maximized return on investment. The client base included software developers, hardware manufacturers, and emerging technology firms seeking to scale their operations and expand into new markets. My initial responsibilities involved conducting market research, analyzing competitive landscapes, and developing client presentations that translated complex data into actionable business insights. The work required sophisticated analytical thinking combined with communication skills that could engage executives who needed strategic guidance without becoming overwhelmed by technical details. The learning curve during my first year was steep but exhilarating as I absorbed knowledge about various technology sectors while developing expertise in market analysis methodologies and strategic planning frameworks. Each client project presented unique challenges that required creative problem-solving and thorough understanding of business fundamentals that extended far beyond marketing tactics. Sarah Wellington, my direct supervisor, possessed the rare combination of technical expertise and leadership capabilities that made her an exceptional mentor for junior analysts seeking to advance their careers. She recognized potential in team members and invested significant effort in developing their capabilities, while maintaining demanding performance standards that pushed everyone to exceed their comfort zones. Sarah's approach to mentorship emphasized practical application of analytical frameworks rather than theoretical discussions about marketing concepts. She assigned increasingly complex projects that required independent research and strategic thinking, while providing guidance that helped me develop professional judgment and confidence in my analytical conclusions. The first major project assigned to me involved analyzing market opportunities for a software company developing artificial intelligence applications for small business automation. The client needed comprehensive research about target market segments, competitive positioning, and pricing strategies that would support successful product launch in highly competitive markets. This assignment required me to interview potential customers, analyze competitor offerings, and develop financial projections that would inform critical business decisions about product development and marketing investment. The complexity of the analysis pushed me to develop new research methodologies while applying knowledge gained through academic coursework to real business challenges. The client presentation went exceptionally well, as my research provided insights that challenged their initial assumptions about target markets, while identifying opportunities they had not previously considered. The strategic recommendations I developed helped them refine their product positioning and marketing approach in ways that significantly improved their market entry prospects. Sarah's feedback following the presentation was overwhelmingly positive and included observations about my analytical capabilities that exceeded her expectations for junior analysts. She recommended me for inclusion in advanced training programs and consideration for promotion opportunities that typically required 2 years of experience before eligibility. The recognition felt particularly meaningful because it resulted from objective evaluation of work quality rather than personal relationships or family connections. This validation confirmed that my academic preparation had provided the foundation necessary for professional success, while demonstrating that my analytical approach produced results that senior colleagues valued and respected. During my second year at Meridian, I was assigned to lead market research for a major client, seeking to expand their software platform into international markets. This project required coordinating research across multiple countries while managing a team of junior analysts and external consultants who provided local market expertise. The leadership experience challenged me to develop project management skills and communication capabilities that went beyond individual analytical work. Managing diverse team members with different cultural backgrounds and professional experiences required emotional intelligence and adaptability that complemented my technical competencies. The international expansion project succeeded beyond client expectations, as our research identified market entry strategies that minimized regulatory risks while maximizing revenue potential. The client implemented our recommendations and achieved first-year international sales that exceeded their projections by 35%. This success earned recognition from Meridian's senior partners and resulted in my promotion to senior analyst with expanded responsibilities for client relationship management and business development activities. The promotion came with a substantial salary increase and eligibility for performance bonuses that reflected my contribution to firm profitability. The financial security provided by my professional success enabled me to establish a comfortable lifestyle in Seattle while maintaining the disciplined spending habits that Eleanor had encouraged throughout my education. I purchased a condominium in a desirable neighborhood, invested surplus income in diversified portfolios, and built an emergency fund that provided flexibility for future career decisions. More importantly, my professional achievements provided evidence that Eleanor's investment in my education had produced the intended results. I was building the foundation for lifelong financial independence, while developing expertise that would enable continued career advancement regardless of economic conditions or industry changes. The contrast between my career trajectory and Daniel's continued struggles with basic professional responsibilities became increasingly apparent as he cycled through various entry-level positions without achieving stability or advancement. My parents' reports during occasional family communications described his employment difficulties as temporary challenges that would resolve once he found the right opportunity. Their explanations consistently attributed Daniel's professional struggles to external factors such as difficult supervisors, unrealistic employer expectations, or economic conditions that limited opportunities for recent graduates. This pattern of deflecting responsibility reflected their continued investment in maintaining the narrative that Daniel possessed equal potential despite mounting evidence to the contrary. Meanwhile, my professional reputation within the technology consulting industry was expanding as clients began requesting my involvement in their strategic planning initiatives. Word-of-mouth referrals from satisfied clients generated new business opportunities for Meridian, while establishing my personal brand as an analyst who delivered actionable insights that produced measurable business results. The recognition extended beyond individual client relationships to include speaking invitations at industry conferences, where I presented research findings and analytical methodologies that other professionals found valuable for their own consulting practices. These presentations enhanced my professional visibility while building relationships with potential clients and collaboration partners. During my third year at Meridian, I was promoted to principal analyst, with responsibility for managing major client accounts and mentoring junior team members. The role included equity participation in firm profits and consideration for partnership track positions that would provide long-term financial security and professional autonomy. The partnership opportunity represented the culmination of strategic career planning that had begun during my college years with Eleanor's guidance and encouragement. She had emphasized the importance of building expertise that would provide leverage in salary negotiations and advancement discussions, while maintaining ethical standards that preserved professional reputation. My success at Meridian attracted attention from executive recruiters representing other consulting firms and technology companies seeking senior marketing professionals. While I appreciated these opportunities, I recognized that my current position provided excellent learning opportunities and clear advancement pathways that aligned with my long-term career objectives. The decision to remain with Meridian reflected strategic thinking about career development, rather than immediate compensation maximization. Building deep expertise within one organization while expanding client relationships and industry knowledge would provide stronger foundation for eventual entrepreneurial ventures or executive positions at larger corporations. Eleanor celebrated each career milestone with genuine enthusiasm and pride that contrasted sharply with my parents' lukewarm responses to my professional achievements. Their reactions suggested discomfort with my success rather than parental pride, as my accomplishments highlighted the differences between Daniel's continued struggles and my upward trajectory. Family dinners during holiday visits became increasingly awkward as conversations about careers revealed the growing disparity between our respective professional situations. My parents would quickly redirect discussions away from my achievements while emphasizing Daniel's potential and the temporary nature of his employment difficulties. The emotional distance that had characterized my childhood relationships with my parents became more pronounced as my professional success made it difficult for them to maintain their preferred narrative about equal potential and different paths to success. Their discomfort with objective measures of career achievement reflected deeper psychological needs that superseded normal parental pride in children's accomplishments. Eleanor privately expressed frustration with my parents' inability to celebrate my success while continuing to enable Daniel's failure to develop responsibility and work ethic. She understood that their favoritism was preventing both children from developing authentic relationships with family members, while creating resentment that would likely persist throughout our adult lives. During one particularly memorable conversation, Eleanor shared insights about family dynamics that helped me understand my parents' behavior patterns, while validating my decision to build independence, rather than seeking their approval or support for my career choices. Your parents invested so much emotional energy in believing that Daniel would succeed that your achievements threaten their self-perception as effective parents, Eleanor explained. Rather than adjusting their expectations or acknowledging their mistakes, they prefer to minimize your success because it requires them to confront uncomfortable truths about their parenting choices. This perspective helped me understand that my parents' responses reflected their psychological limitations rather than any deficiency in my character or achievements. Their inability to provide appropriate recognition and support resulted from their investment in maintaining illusions rather than accepting reality about their children's different capabilities and work ethics. The insight provided emotional freedom from seeking validation that my parents were incapable of providing, while reinforcing my commitment to building career success that would provide security and satisfaction independent of family approval. My professional accomplishments were meaningful, regardless of whether my parents chose to acknowledge or celebrate them. By my 4th year at Meridian, I had been invited to join the firm's executive committee and participate in strategic planning initiatives that would shape the organization's future direction. This recognition represented validation of my business judgment and leadership capabilities, while providing exposure to advanced management responsibilities. The executive committee role included responsibility for evaluating new business opportunities, assessing potential acquisitions, and developing organizational policies that would support continued growth and profitability. These experiences provided valuable preparation for eventual entrepreneurial ventures, while building relationships with senior executives throughout the technology industry. My compensation had increased substantially through promotions and performance bonuses, while my equity participation in firm profits provided additional financial security that exceeded my initial career expectations. The financial foundation I was building would provide flexibility for future decisions about career direction and personal priorities. More significantly, my professional reputation had expanded beyond Meridian to include recognition throughout the Pacific Northwest technology community as an expert in market analysis and strategic planning. This visibility created opportunities for board service, advisory roles, and consulting engagements that would provide additional income and professional development experiences. The speaking engagements and industry recognition also provided platforms for advocating for women's advancement in technology and business consulting fields where gender representation remained limited despite changing social attitudes. I began mentoring female college students and young professionals who sought guidance about career planning and advancement strategies. These mentoring relationships reminded me of Eleanor's impact on my development, while providing opportunities to share knowledge and encouragement with others facing similar challenges in competitive professional environments. The experience of helping others navigate career obstacles while building confidence in their capabilities provided personal satisfaction that complemented my individual achievements. As I approached my 5th anniversary at Meridian, I reflected on the journey from college graduation to senior executive responsibilities while anticipating the expanded opportunities that continued success would provide. My career trajectory validated Eleanor's belief in my potential, while demonstrating that strategic planning and consistent performance could overcome initial disadvantages and family limitations. The professional foundation I had built provided security and flexibility that would enable me to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities or executive positions at larger organizations when the timing aligned with my personal and career objectives. More importantly, my success demonstrated that individual effort and analytical thinking could produce results that provided genuine independence and satisfaction regardless of family dynamics or external validation. The advancement to executive committee membership at Meridian brought expanded responsibilities that extended beyond client service to include strategic oversight of the firm's growth initiatives and organizational development. This elevated position provided unprecedented insight into the business decisions that drove consulting firm profitability while offering opportunities to shape policies that would influence the careers of dozens of junior professionals. Executive committee meetings occurred monthly in Meridian's boardroom, where senior partners reviewed financial performance, evaluated new business opportunities, and addressed operational challenges that required collective decision-making. My inclusion in these discussions represented recognition that my analytical capabilities and business judgment had reached levels warranting input on matters affecting the firm's strategic direction. The responsibilities associated with executive committee membership required balancing individual client obligations with broader organizational considerations that demanded sophisticated understanding of business dynamics and competitive positioning. These dual obligations tested my ability to maintain excellence in client service while contributing meaningfully to discussions about market expansion, talent acquisition, and operational efficiency improvements. David Morrison, Meridian's founding partner, approached leadership development with systematic intentionality that reflected his commitment to building sustainable organizational capabilities rather than relying solely on his personal expertise and relationships. He understood that consulting firm success depended on developing multiple partners capable of managing major client relationships while contributing to strategic planning and business development initiatives. David's mentorship style emphasized experiential learning through progressive assignment of complex responsibilities, combined with structured feedback sessions that helped emerging leaders understand the strategic reasoning behind major business decisions. His approach accelerated professional development while ensuring that organizational knowledge transferred effectively across generations of leadership. The first major strategic initiative assigned to me involved evaluating potential acquisition targets that could enhance Meridian's service capabilities or provide access to new client markets. This analysis required understanding financial valuation methodologies, conducting due diligence assessments, and developing integration strategies that would maximize synergies while minimizing operational disruption. The acquisition analysis project demanded skills that extended far beyond my marketing expertise to include financial modeling, organizational assessment, and strategic planning capabilities that would prove valuable throughout my remaining career. The complexity of the evaluation process pushed me to develop new analytical frameworks while applying existing knowledge to unfamiliar business challenges. After 3 months of intensive research and analysis, I recommended acquisition of a smaller consulting firm specializing in digital transformation services for manufacturing companies. The target firm possessed complementary expertise that would enhance Meridian's service portfolio while providing access to industrial clients that represented significant growth opportunities. The acquisition recommendation included detailed financial projections, integration timelines, and risk assessment analyses that demonstrated thorough understanding of the strategic and operational considerations involved in combining two professional service organizations. My presentation to the executive committee reflected the analytical rigor and strategic thinking that David sought to develop in future firm leaders. The executive committee approved the acquisition based on my recommendation and appointed me to lead the integration process that would combine the two organizations while preserving the client relationships and institutional knowledge that made the target firm valuable. This assignment provided practical experience with change management and organizational development that expanded my leadership capabilities significantly. The integration project succeeded beyond initial projections, as the combined organization generated revenue synergies and operational efficiencies that enhanced profitability for both legacy client bases. The success validated my analytical approach while demonstrating my ability to manage complex initiatives that required coordination across multiple stakeholder groups with different priorities and concerns. Recognition for the successful acquisition and integration opened discussions about my progression toward full partnership status at Meridian. David outlined a development pathway that would require continued excellence in client service, combined with demonstrated leadership in business development and organizational management over the following 2 years. The partnership track opportunity represented validation of my professional capabilities, while providing clear objectives for continued advancement within an organization that valued analytical excellence and strategic thinking. More importantly, partnership status would provide equity participation and management authority that aligned with my long-term career objectives and financial planning goals. During this period of professional advancement, communications with my family became increasingly strained, as the differences between my career trajectory and Daniel's continued employment struggles became impossible to ignore or rationalize through appeals to different definitions of success or alternative pathways to achievement. Daniel's professional difficulties had escalated beyond temporary adjustment challenges, to include termination from 3 consecutive positions due to performance issues, attendance problems, and conflicts with supervisors who found his work ethic and professional attitude inadequate for meeting basic job requirements. Each employment failure prompted extensive family discussions about external factors that had contributed to his difficulties rather than acknowledgement of personal responsibility or behavioral changes needed for improvement. My parents' responses to Daniel's employment problems revealed their continued investment in maintaining illusions about his potential rather than confronting the reality that his lack of discipline and accountability had created a pattern of professional failure that would likely persist without significant personal development and attitude adjustment. The financial implications of Daniel's employment instability became apparent as my parents began providing regular monetary support for his living expenses, debt obligations, and various business venture investments that he claimed would provide alternative pathways to financial success without requiring traditional employment relationships that had proven problematic. Their willingness to subsidize Daniel's lifestyle while he pursued impractical business ideas reflected their psychological need to believe in his eventual success, rather than rational assessment of his capabilities and likelihood of achieving sustainable income through entrepreneurial activities that required precisely the discipline and accountability he had failed to demonstrate in employment situations. Meanwhile, my professional achievements continued generating recognition within the technology consulting industry through speaking engagements, thought leadership articles, and advisory board appointments that enhanced both my personal reputation and Meridian's market positioning. These external activities provided additional income while building relationships that supported business development and career advancement opportunities. The contrast between my expanding professional influence and Daniel's declining employment prospects created family dynamics that became increasingly uncomfortable during the limited occasions when I participated in family gatherings or communications. My parents seemed unable to celebrate my achievements without experiencing them as implicit criticism of their parenting choices regarding Daniel. Their discomfort with objective measures of professional success reflected deeper concerns about the sustainability of their preferred narrative regarding equal potential and different paths to achievement. My continued advancement made it increasingly difficult to maintain the fiction that Daniel's struggles represented temporary challenges rather than fundamental character and capability issues. Eleanor observed these family dynamics with growing frustration as my parents' inability to acknowledge my achievements while continuing to enable Daniel's irresponsibility damaged relationships and prevented authentic family connections from developing. She began expressing concerns about the long-term implications of their favoritism for both children's emotional well-being and family cohesion. During one particularly candid conversation, Eleanor shared her observations about how my parents' behavior patterns reflected their own insecurities and limitations rather than realistic assessment of their children's different capabilities and work ethics. Her insights helped me understand that their responses resulted from psychological needs that superseded normal parental pride in children's accomplishments. Your parents invested so heavily in the belief that Daniel would validate their parenting effectiveness that your success threatens their self-perception and forces them to confront uncomfortable truths about their choices, Eleanor explained. Rather than adjusting their expectations or acknowledging their mistakes, they prefer to minimize your achievements because celebrating them requires admitting that their favoritism was misguided. This perspective provided emotional liberation from seeking approval that my parents were psychologically incapable of providing, while reinforcing my commitment to building career success and personal satisfaction independent of family validation or recognition. My professional accomplishments possessed intrinsic value regardless of whether my parents chose to acknowledge or celebrate them. The insight also clarified my understanding of family dynamics that had shaped my character development throughout childhood and adolescence. The emotional neglect and preferential treatment that had seemed personally directed actually reflected my parents' limitations rather than any deficiency in my character or potential for achievement. Armed with this understanding, I began approaching family interactions with emotional detachment that protected my well-being, while maintaining polite relationships that fulfilled social obligations without creating unnecessary conflict or drama. This strategy enabled me to participate in family events when appropriate, while avoiding the emotional investment that had previously resulted in disappointment and frustration. This psychological freedom that resulted from accepting my parents' limitations enabled me to focus energy and attention on professional development and personal relationships that provided genuine satisfaction and mutual respect. My career continued advancing while I built friendships and romantic relationships with individuals who appreciated my capabilities and supported my aspirations. Partnership discussions at Meridian progressed favorably as my client portfolio expanded, and my contributions to firm profitability exceeded expectations established for candidates at my experience level. David expressed confidence that partnership approval would occur within the next 18 months, based on continued performance at current levels and successful completion of additional leadership responsibilities. The partnership timeline aligned perfectly with my approaching 28th birthday, when Eleanor's trust fund would become accessible according to the terms she had established for ensuring her granddaughters possessed financial independence and flexibility for making authentic life choices based on personal values rather than economic constraints. The combination of partnership income and trust fund access would provide financial security that exceeded my most optimistic projections, while creating opportunities for entrepreneurial ventures, philanthropic activities, or other pursuits that aligned with my interests and values. The prospect of such comprehensive financial independence felt both exciting and sobering given the responsibilities that accompany significant wealth and resources. Eleanor's estate planning reflected her sophisticated understanding of how financial security could enhance individual freedom while creating obligations for responsible stewardship and meaningful contribution to society. Her structure of the trust fund demonstrated intention that the inheritance should support purposeful living rather than merely providing comfort or luxury without corresponding social contribution. As my 28th birthday approached, conversations with Eleanor increasingly focused on her expectations and hopes for how I would utilize the financial independence that the trust fund would provide. She emphasized the importance of maintaining the work ethic and analytical discipline that had enabled my professional success while exploring opportunities for broader impact and personal fulfillment. Her guidance reflected decades of experience building business success while maintaining commitment to family relationships and community involvement. Eleanor's example demonstrated that financial achievement could coexist with personal integrity and social responsibility when individuals maintained clear values and purposeful decision-making throughout their careers. The approaching transition to trust fund access represented more than financial milestone. It marked my complete independence from family dynamics that had limited my emotional well-being, while providing resources for pursuing opportunities that might not otherwise be accessible regardless of professional income and career advancement. The timing of this transition would prove more significant than I could have anticipated, as family pressures related to Daniel's continued financial needs and business venture failures were creating circumstances that would test every principle about independence, family loyalty, and personal integrity that I had developed throughout my adult life. Looking back at this period of professional advancement and family relationship evolution, I recognized that Eleanor's wisdom in structuring the trust fund timing reflected her understanding that financial independence should coincide with personal maturity and professional competence rather than arbitrary age milestones that might not correspond with readiness for such significant responsibility. My preparation for accessing the trust fund represented the culmination of strategic planning that had begun during college with Eleanor's guidance and continued through my career development at Meridian. The foundation I had built through education, professional achievement, and character development would prove essential for navigating the challenges that lay ahead when family dynamics and financial resources would intersect in ways that would test my principles and resolve. The final months leading to my 28th birthday brought intensified focus on partnership preparation at Meridian, while simultaneously creating circumstances that would expose the true nature of my family's priorities and values. During this period, the contrast between my professional advancement and Daniel's escalating financial difficulties created tensions that my parents addressed through increasingly desperate attempts to maintain their preferred narrative about equal potential and temporary setbacks. Partnership candidacy at Meridian required comprehensive evaluation of my client portfolio performance, business development contributions, and leadership capabilities demonstrated through mentoring junior staff and managing complex project initiatives. The assessment process involved detailed review of client satisfaction surveys, revenue generation statistics, and peer evaluations that provided objective measures of my professional effectiveness and potential for continued advancement. The evaluation revealed consistently exceptional performance across all measured categories, with client satisfaction ratings that exceeded firm averages and revenue generation that ranked among the top performers at my experience level. These metrics validated my analytical approach to client service, while demonstrating the business development capabilities that partners valued for long-term firm growth and profitability. David Morrison scheduled formal partnership discussions for early December, approximately 2 months before my birthday and trust fund access date. The timing reflected Meridian's annual planning cycle while providing sufficient notice for partnership transition activities, including equity investment requirements and expanded management responsibilities that would commence with the new fiscal year. The partnership opportunity represented the culmination of strategic career planning that had begun during my college years with Eleanor's guidance and continued through focused professional development at Meridian. The role would provide substantial income increases, equity participation in firm profits, and management authority that aligned perfectly with my long-term career objectives and personal financial planning goals. Preparation for partnership discussions required developing detailed business plans for client portfolio expansion and service line development that would contribute to firm growth while establishing my individual practice areas and market positioning. This strategic planning process demanded sophisticated understanding of competitive dynamics and market opportunities that extended beyond technical consulting capabilities. The business development strategy I proposed focused on expanding Meridian's presence in the financial technology sector through specialized expertise in regulatory compliance and risk management consulting. This market represented significant growth opportunities, as fintech companies required sophisticated advisory services to navigate complex regulatory environments while scaling their operations. My analysis identified specific market segments where Meridian could develop competitive advantages through targeted expertise development and strategic partnership relationships with legal firms and compliance specialists. The proposed strategy included detailed financial projections and implementation timelines that demonstrated thorough understanding of business development principles and market dynamics. The partnership proposal received enthusiastic support from the executive committee, who recognized both the market opportunity and my capability to execute the strategy effectively. David expressed confidence that partnership approval would occur according to the planned timeline, while encouraging continued excellence in current client responsibilities during the transition period. Meanwhile, family communications revealed escalating concerns about Daniel's financial situation as his latest business venture, a digital marketing agency targeting small businesses, experienced the same pattern of initial optimism, followed by operational difficulties and client service problems that had characterized his previous entrepreneurial attempts. The marketing agency had consumed approximately $30,000 in startup capital provided by my parents through their home equity line of credit, representing a significant financial commitment that reflected their continued belief in Daniel's potential for business success, despite mounting evidence of his inability to manage basic operational responsibilities effectively. Initial results from the marketing agency appeared promising as Daniel successfully signed several small business clients who were attracted by his presentations about digital marketing strategies and social media optimization services. However, the execution phase revealed fundamental problems with service delivery and client communication that quickly resulted in contract cancellations and negative reviews. The pattern was depressingly familiar as Daniel's initial enthusiasm and sales capabilities proved insufficient for sustaining business operations that required consistent effort, attention to detail, and professional follow-through on commitments made to clients. His inability to develop systematic approaches to service delivery created recurring problems that prevented any of his ventures from achieving sustainable profitability. My parents' response to the marketing agency failure followed their established pattern of attributing problems to external factors, such as unrealistic client expectations, market conditions that favored larger competitors, and economic challenges that made small business marketing services difficult to sell at profitable price points. Their analysis consistently avoided acknowledging Daniel's responsibility for the operational failures, while maintaining optimism about his potential for success in future ventures that would better match his capabilities and interests. This psychological defense mechanism enabled them to continue providing financial support without confronting uncomfortable truths about his work ethic and professional competence. The financial implications of Daniel's repeated business failures were becoming apparent as my parents' savings and available credit approached levels that threatened their own retirement security and financial stability. Their willingness to jeopardize their personal financial well-being demonstrated the extent of their emotional investment in Daniel's success, while revealing their inability to establish appropriate boundaries regarding family financial assistance. Eleanor observed these developments with increasing alarm as she recognized that my parents' financial support for Daniel's ventures was becoming unsustainable, while preventing him from developing the accountability and self-reliance necessary for authentic success. Her concerns extended beyond immediate financial considerations to include the long-term implications for family relationships and Daniel's personal development. During our monthly dinner meetings, Eleanor began expressing her frustrations more directly about my parents' enabling behavior while acknowledging the difficult position their choices created for the broader family dynamics. She understood that their preferential treatment and financial support were preventing Daniel from experiencing the natural consequences of his decisions, while simultaneously damaging their relationship with me. "Your parents have created a situation where they are harming everyone involved," Eleanor observed during one particularly candid conversation. "Daniel will never develop responsibility while they continue rescuing him from consequences, and their favoritism prevents you from having authentic family relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care." Her insights validated my own observations about family dynamics while providing perspective from someone who loved all family members but remained committed to honest assessment of their behavior patterns and likely outcomes. Eleanor's willingness to address uncomfortable truths reflected her understanding that avoiding difficult conversations would not improve family relationships or help Daniel develop necessary life skills. The conversation also revealed Eleanor's growing concerns about how my parents might respond to my approaching trust fund access, particularly given their escalating financial pressures related to Daniel's continued needs and business venture failures. She worried that they might view my inheritance as a family resource rather than individual property intended to support my independence and future security. "I want you to understand that the trust fund represents my confidence in your judgment and my desire to provide you with freedom to make authentic choices about your life," Eleanor explained. "The resources are intended for your benefit and should never become a source of family conflict or expectation that you will subsidize others' poor decisions." Her comments proved prescient as family conversations during holiday gatherings increasingly included subtle references to financial stress and observations about the economic advantages that some family members enjoyed compared to others who faced ongoing challenges despite their best efforts and genuine intentions. These discussions followed predictable patterns where my parents would describe Daniel's latest business concept or employment opportunity with optimism, while making indirect comparisons to my professional situation that suggested I had benefited from favorable circumstances rather than earned my success through effort and capability. The implicit message was that family members should support each other during difficult periods, regardless of the underlying causes of those difficulties or the sustainability of continued assistance. This perspective reflected their belief that family loyalty required financial support without regard for individual accountability, or the likelihood that such assistance would actually improve long-term outcomes. My responses to these conversations maintained polite neutrality, while avoiding commitments that might encourage expectations about future financial assistance. I had learned to redirect discussions toward general topics that did not involve comparisons between family members, professional or financial situations. The approaching partnership announcement and trust fund access created additional complexity, as both developments would significantly increase my financial resources while potentially intensifying family expectations about sharing those resources with Daniel during his continued struggles with employment and business development. Partnership at Meridian would provide immediate income increases of approximately 70%, along with equity participation that would generate additional compensation based on firm profitability. The combined effect would establish financial security that exceeded my most optimistic projections, while creating opportunities for investment and entrepreneurial activities that could further enhance long-term wealth accumulation. The trust fund would add another $500,000 in liquid assets that could be invested for growth or utilized for specific purposes, such as real estate acquisition, business ventures, or philanthropic activities that aligned with my values and interests. The combination represented financial independence that would provide complete freedom from economic constraints on life choices. Eleanor's estate planning had structured the trust fund to become accessible on my 28th birthday without restrictions regarding utilization or investment strategies. Her confidence in my judgment reflected years of observation about my character development and decision-making capabilities, while acknowledging that prescriptive requirements would be inappropriate for someone who had demonstrated consistent responsibility and strategic thinking. The approaching financial independence created both excitement about expanded opportunities and concern about how family dynamics might change when my resources became apparent to my parents. Their current financial stress related to Daniel's needs suggested they might view my inheritance as an opportunity to solve problems that their own resources could no longer address adequately. Eleanor's warnings about potential family pressure proved particularly relevant as my parents began making more direct comments about the challenges of supporting adult children who faced temporary difficulties, while other family members enjoyed professional success and financial security. These observations were presented as general commentary rather than specific requests, but their intent was unmistakable. The psychological preparation for managing family expectations required developing clear boundaries about personal financial resources while maintaining relationships that preserved family connections without creating obligations that would compromise my independence or enable continued irresponsible behavior. Professional success and approaching financial independence provided confidence that I could maintain these boundaries effectively while pursuing career opportunities and personal relationships that supported my authentic interests and values. The foundation Eleanor had helped me build through education and character development would prove essential for navigating the challenges that lay ahead, when family pressures and financial resources would intersect in ways that would test every principle about independence and personal integrity that guided my decisions. The final weeks before my birthday brought increased frequency of family communications that seemed designed to establish stronger emotional connections, while simultaneously highlighting the contrast between my professional success and Daniel's continued struggles. These conversations followed patterns that suggested coordination between my parents rather than spontaneous expressions of family concern or interest. The stage was being set for developments that would reveal the true nature of my family's priorities, while testing my commitment to the independence and self-reliance that Eleanor had encouraged throughout my education and career development. The approaching storm would ultimately validate every decision I had made to build success through personal effort, rather than relying on family support or approval for my achievements and aspirations. The partnership announcement at Meridian arrived on December 15th, with formal notification that I would join the firm's ownership structure effective January 1st. Marking the culmination of 5 years of strategic career development and analytical excellence that had positioned me among the youngest partners in the firm's 30-year history. The promotion included equity participation worth approximately $200,000 in current market value, along with expanded management responsibilities and compensation increases that would nearly double my annual income. David Morrison's announcement to the firm emphasized my contributions to client service excellence, business development success, and leadership development that had accelerated organizational growth, while maintaining the quality standards that distinguished Meridian from competitors in the technology consulting marketplace. The recognition validated my analytical approach to professional development while providing platform for expanded influence within the industry. Client responses to the partnership announcement were overwhelmingly positive, with several expressing appreciation for the continuity and enhanced service capabilities that my expanded role would provide for their strategic planning and market development initiatives. These endorsements reflected the trust and professional relationships that I had cultivated through consistent delivery of analytical insights and strategic recommendations that produced measurable business results. The partnership achievement represented more than individual career advancement. It demonstrated that merit-based advancement remained possible in competitive professional environments when individuals maintained focus on excellence while developing capabilities that aligned with organizational needs and market opportunities. The recognition provided validation that Eleanor's investment in my education and character development had produced intended outcomes. Preparation for my 28th birthday on February 14th involved administrative arrangements with First National Trust Services to formalize access to Eleanor's inheritance, while establishing investment accounts and financial planning strategies that would optimize long-term wealth accumulation and preservation. The trust fund represented financial independence that would provide complete freedom from economic constraints on life choices and career decisions. Margaret Chen scheduled meetings during late January to review trust fund documentation and establish procedures for asset transfer and ongoing account management. These discussions revealed the sophisticated planning that Eleanor had implemented to ensure smooth transition of financial resources while providing guidance about investment strategies and philanthropic opportunities that aligned with her values and expectations. The trust fund structure included provisions for quarterly distributions of investment income while preserving principal value for long-term growth and security. Eleanor's design reflected her understanding that financial independence should provide steady income streams rather than encouraging consumption that would diminish the asset base over time. Additional provisions addressed potential family pressure by establishing clear legal ownership that could not be compromised through family obligations or emotional manipulation. Eleanor's foresight in creating these protections reflected her understanding of family dynamics and her determination that the inheritance should support my independence, rather than becoming source of conflict or expectation. The approaching birthday celebration provided opportunity for reflection about the journey from college graduation to professional partnership, while anticipating expanded opportunities that financial independence would enable for pursuing entrepreneurial ventures, philanthropic activities, and personal relationships that supported authentic interests and values. Family communications during January revealed increasing frequency of contact from my parents, who expressed interest in celebrating my birthday with dinner gatherings and family activities that would acknowledge this significant milestone in my personal development. Their enthusiasm seemed disproportionate to their historical attention regarding my birthday celebrations, suggesting underlying motivations beyond normal parental interest. The conversations included subtle references to family financial challenges and observations about the responsibility that successful family members bore for supporting others during temporary difficulties. These comments were presented as general principles rather than specific requests, but their timing and context suggested coordination designed to establish emotional groundwork for future assistance requests. My mother's calls became particularly frequent during the final weeks before my birthday, often including updates about Daniel's latest employment search and business development activities that required ongoing financial support, while he pursued opportunities that would eventually provide sustainable income and professional stability. These updates followed predictable patterns where Daniel's potential and temporary setbacks were emphasized, while my professional achievements were acknowledged briefly before redirecting conversation toward family obligation themes and mutual support expectations that characterized healthy family relationships according to their perspective. The psychological pressure was subtle but persistent as my parents attempted to establish emotional connections and family loyalty frameworks that would support future financial assistance requests. Their approach reflected sophisticated understanding of influence techniques, while maintaining plausible deniability about ulterior motives that might compromise our relationship dynamics. Eleanor observed these communication patterns with growing concern as she recognized the coordination and strategic timing that suggested my parents were preparing for systematic attempts to access my trust fund resources for Daniel's benefit. Her warnings about potential family pressure proved increasingly relevant as the birthday date approached. These endorsements reflected the trust and professional relationships that I had cultivated through consistent delivery of analytical insights and strategic recommendations that produced measurable business results. The partnership achievement represented more than individual career advancement. It demonstrated that merit-based advancement remained possible in competitive professional environments when individuals maintained focus on excellence while developing capabilities that aligned with organizational needs and market opportunities. The recognition provided validation that Eleanor's investment in my education and character development had produced intended outcomes. Preparation for my 28th birthday on February 14th involved administrative arrangements with First National Trust Services to formalize access to Eleanor's inheritance, while establishing investment accounts and financial planning strategies that would optimize long-term wealth accumulation and preservation. The trust fund represented financial independence that would provide complete freedom from economic constraints on life choices and career decisions. Margaret Chen scheduled meetings during late January to review trust fund documentation and establish procedures for asset transfer and ongoing account management. These discussions revealed the sophisticated planning that Eleanor had implemented to ensure smooth transition of financial resources while providing guidance about investment strategies and philanthropic opportunities that aligned with her values and expectations. The trust fund structure included provisions for quarterly distributions of investment income while preserving principal value for long-term growth and security. Eleanor's design reflected her understanding that financial independence should provide steady income streams rather than encouraging consumption that would diminish the asset base over time. Additional provisions addressed potential family pressure by establishing clear legal ownership that could not be compromised through family obligations or emotional manipulation. Eleanor's foresight in creating these protections reflected her understanding of family dynamics and her determination that the inheritance should support my independence rather than becoming source of conflict or expectation. The approaching birthday celebration provided opportunity for reflection about the journey from college graduation to professional partnership, while anticipating expanded opportunities that financial independence would enable for pursuing entrepreneurial ventures, philanthropic activities, and personal relationships that supported authentic interests and values. Family communications during January revealed increasing frequency of contact from my parents, who expressed interest in celebrating my birthday with dinner gatherings and family activities that would acknowledge this significant milestone in my personal development. Their enthusiasm seemed disproportionate to their historical attention regarding my birthday celebrations, suggesting underlying motivations beyond normal parental interest. The conversations included subtle references to family financial challenges and observations about the responsibility that successful family members bore for supporting others during temporary difficulties. These comments were presented as general principles rather than specific requests, but their timing and context suggested coordination designed to establish emotional groundwork for future assistance requests. My mother's calls became particularly frequent during the final weeks before my birthday, often including updates about Daniel's latest employment search and business development activities that required ongoing financial support, while he pursued opportunities that would eventually provide sustainable income and professional stability. These updates followed predictable patterns where Daniel's potential and temporary setbacks were emphasized, while my professional achievements were acknowledged briefly before redirecting conversation toward family obligation themes and mutual support expectations that characterized healthy family relationships according to their perspective. The psychological pressure was subtle but persistent, as my parents attempted to establish emotional connections and family loyalty frameworks that would support future financial assistance requests. Their approach reflected sophisticated understanding of influence techniques, while maintaining plausible deniability about ulterior motives that might compromise our relationship dynamics. Eleanor observed these communication patterns with growing concern as she recognized the coordination and strategic timing that suggested my parents were preparing for systematic attempts to access my trust fund resources for Daniel's benefit. Her warnings about potential family pressure proved increasingly relevant as the birthday date approached. Your parents are engaging in classic manipulation techniques designed to create emotional obligations that they can leverage for financial requests, Eleanor explained during our final pre-birthday conversation. Their sudden interest in family celebration and relationship building is calculated rather than authentic, and you must maintain clear boundaries regardless of emotional pressure they might apply. Her insights validated my own observations about family communication patterns while providing strategic guidance for managing interactions that preserved relationships without creating commitments that would compromise my financial independence or enable continued irresponsible behavior from Daniel. The birthday celebration occurred at an upscale restaurant selected by my parents, who had insisted on hosting the dinner despite my preference for smaller, more intimate gatherings that reflected my actual interests and social preferences. The venue choice and guest list seemed designed to create formal atmosphere that would emphasize family solidarity and shared celebration of achievements. Daniel attended the dinner with apparent enthusiasm, engaging in conversations about my career advancement and expressing pride in my professional accomplishments that contrasted sharply with his typical indifference regarding my achievements. His participation seemed coordinated with my parents' efforts to establish family unity themes, while positioning themselves for subsequent conversations about mutual support and shared resources. The dinner conversation included extended discussion about family history and Eleanor's influence on my development, with particular emphasis on her business success and commitment to family welfare that had created opportunities for future generations to benefit from her wisdom and resources. These topics seemed designed to establish context for discussing inheritance responsibilities and family obligation principles. My parents' toast to my birthday emphasized themes of family pride and mutual support while acknowledging the approaching trust fund access as validation of Eleanor's confidence in my judgment and character development. Their comments included subtle references to the responsibility that accompanied financial resources and the importance of using such advantages to benefit family members who might face temporary challenges. The messaging was sophisticated and emotionally manipulative while maintaining appearance of normal family celebration and parental pride in my achievements. Their coordination suggested extensive planning and strategic discussion about how to approach trust fund access requests while preserving relationships that would support ongoing financial assistance for Daniel's needs. Daniel's contribution to the birthday conversation included expressions of appreciation for my professional success and acknowledgement that my achievements reflected hard work and analytical capabilities that had created opportunities for career advancement and financial security. His comments seemed scripted rather than spontaneous, suggesting coaching about appropriate responses and messaging themes. The dinner concluded with arrangements for future family gatherings and discussions about how successful family members could contribute to supporting others who face temporary setbacks while pursuing their own career development and business opportunities. These plans created framework for subsequent conversations about specific assistance requests and family financial obligations. The actual birthday arrival on February 14th brought formal notification from First National Trust Services that trust fund assets were now accessible according to Eleanor's estate planning provisions. The transfer included detailed documentation about investment allocations, historical performance records, and recommendations for ongoing portfolio management that would preserve wealth while generating steady income streams. Margaret Chen's final briefing emphasized the legal protections that Eleanor had established to prevent unauthorized access or family pressure that might compromise my control over trust fund resources. These provisions included requirements for personal authorization of any transactions and explicit prohibition of third-party access regardless of family relationships or claimed emergency circumstances. The trust fund transfer represented more than financial milestone. It marked complete independence from family economic influence while providing resources for pursuing opportunities that aligned with personal values rather than external obligations or expectations. The combination with partnership income established comprehensive financial security that exceeded my most optimistic projections. The immediate aftermath of trust fund access brought intensified family communications as my parents expressed interest in celebrating this significant achievement while simultaneously sharing updates about Daniel's latest business development activities and ongoing financial needs that required temporary family assistance during his transition to sustainable employment or entrepreneurial success. Their timing was transparent and manipulative, yet they maintained emotional framework of family celebration and mutual support that made direct confrontation difficult without appearing ungrateful or selfish regarding family relationships and shared resources that should benefit all members according to their perspective. The strategic challenge involved maintaining relationships that preserved family connections while establishing boundaries that protected financial independence and prevented enabling of continued irresponsible behavior that would ultimately harm Daniel's development and family dynamics over time. Eleanor's guidance about family manipulation techniques proved invaluable for recognizing psychological pressure tactics while developing responses that maintained personal integrity and long-term relationship health. Her warnings had prepared me for exactly the circumstances that were now emerging as my parents began testing approaches for accessing trust fund resources. The foundation that Eleanor had helped me build through education and character development provided confidence for managing family pressure while pursuing authentic interests and relationships that supported personal growth and professional advancement. The trust fund represented freedom to make choices based on values rather than economic constraints or family obligations that might compromise individual development. The birthday revelation about my family's true priorities created opportunity for establishing adult relationships based on mutual respect and authentic care, rather than financial dependence and emotional manipulation. The challenge would require strategic communication and consistent boundary maintenance while preserving relationships that remained valuable despite their limitations. Looking ahead to the confrontations that seemed inevitable as my parents' financial needs and expectations regarding trust fund access became explicit, I felt prepared by years of building independence and developing analytical capabilities that would guide decision-making during difficult conversations and relationship challenges that would test every principle about personal integrity and family loyalty that shaped my character. The journey from childhood favoritism to professional partnership and financial independence had provided education about human nature and family dynamics that would prove essential for navigating the storm ahead when my parents' desperation would lead them to actions that would forever change our relationships and reveal their true values regarding family loyalty and personal responsibility. The first direct request for financial assistance arrived exactly 3 weeks after my birthday, delivered through a carefully orchestrated family meeting at my parents' home under the pretense of celebrating my recent partnership announcement and discussing future family plans. The timing reflected strategic calculation rather than spontaneous decision-making, suggesting extensive preparation and coordination designed to maximize emotional pressure, while minimizing my opportunity for thoughtful consideration. My parents had scheduled the gathering for a Sunday afternoon, selecting timing that would create relaxed atmosphere, while ensuring sufficient time for extended conversations without external interruptions or time constraints that might limit their ability to present comprehensive arguments for family financial assistance. Daniel's presence at the meeting appeared central to their strategy, as his participation would provide emotional context about family support obligations, while demonstrating his commitment to personal development and business success that would justify temporary financial assistance during his transition to sustainable income generation. The conversation began with expressions of pride regarding my professional achievements and acknowledgement of the hard work and analytical capabilities that had enabled partnership advancement at such an early career stage. Their recognition seemed genuine while simultaneously serving as foundation for subsequent discussions about family responsibility and mutual support obligations. My father initiated the substantive portion of the conversation by describing Daniel's latest business opportunity, a technology consulting venture that would leverage his marketing experience and interpersonal skills to help small businesses optimize their digital presence and customer acquisition strategies. The concept appeared more sophisticated than his previous entrepreneurial attempts, while building upon capabilities he had demonstrated through prior employment and business development activities. The business plan presentation included detailed market analysis, service offerings, and financial projections that suggested thorough research and strategic planning that exceeded the preparation evident in Daniel's previous ventures. The documentation reflected professional quality that indicated external assistance or consulting support during the development process. Daniel's presentation emphasized his commitment to building sustainable business operations through systematic customer service and operational excellence that would address the execution challenges that had undermined his previous entrepreneurial efforts. His analysis of past failures demonstrated self-awareness and willingness to acknowledge mistakes while implementing corrective measures for future success. The financial requirements for launching the consulting venture totaled $250,000. Including working capital for operations, marketing investments, technology infrastructure, and professional development activities that would establish credibility within the competitive consulting marketplace. The funding request represented substantial commitment that exceeded my parents' available resources after their previous investments in Daniel's failed businesses. My mother's contribution to the presentation focused on family support principles and the importance of helping capable family members pursue opportunities that would provide long-term financial stability and professional satisfaction. Her arguments emphasized my recent inheritance as providing resources that could support family advancement while maintaining my own financial security and independence. Their approach reflected sophisticated understanding of influence principles, while maintaining emotional framework that emphasized family loyalty and mutual assistance, rather than direct financial obligations or guilt-based manipulation. The presentation avoided explicit pressure, while creating circumstances that made refusal appear selfish or inconsistent with family values. The coordination between my parents and Daniel was apparent throughout the discussion, as each participant reinforced themes developed by others, while avoiding redundancy or contradictory messaging that might undermine their collective persuasion efforts. The preparation suggested extensive planning and role assignment designed to maximize effectiveness while maintaining appearance of spontaneous family conversation. My response emphasized appreciation for their confidence in my judgment while requesting time to evaluate the business plan and consider how such investment might fit within my overall financial planning and risk management strategies. This approach provided graceful deflection of immediate pressure while maintaining respectful tone that preserved family relationships. The request for evaluation time created visible frustration among family members who had apparently expected more immediate positive response based on family relationship and demonstrated need for financial assistance. Their disappointment suggested unrealistic expectations about my willingness to provide substantial funding without thorough analysis of investment merits and risk factors. Daniel's reaction included expressions of understanding regarding my need for careful consideration, while emphasizing time-sensitive aspects of the business opportunity that might be lost if funding delays prevented timely market entry and competitive positioning within the local consulting marketplace. The time pressure tactics reflected manipulation techniques designed to prevent thorough evaluation while creating urgency that might override analytical judgment and risk assessment procedures that would normally guide major financial decisions. Their approach demonstrated sophisticated understanding of decision-making psychology while maintaining plausible business justification. My parents. Follow-up comments emphasized family history of mutual support and Eleanor's own commitment to helping family members achieve their potential through financial assistance and business guidance. They positioned the funding request within broader context of family investment traditions and shared responsibility for supporting capable members during critical development phases. The historical references were accurate but selectively presented to support their current objectives, while omitting relevant context about Eleanor's emphasis on individual accountability and earned assistance rather than unconditional financial support regardless of demonstrated competence and responsibility. The meeting concluded with agreements for follow-up discussions after I completed evaluation of the business plan and considered integration with my personal financial objectives and risk tolerance parameters. The arrangement provided temporary resolution while establishing framework for subsequent conversations about specific funding arrangements and investment terms. During the drive home from my parents' house, I reflected on the sophisticated manipulation techniques they had employed while maintaining appearance of normal family business discussion and legitimate investment opportunity presentation. Their coordination and strategic messaging demonstrated extensive preparation designed to access trust fund resources through emotional leverage rather than objective investment merits. The following week brought additional family communications that reinforced themes established during the Sunday meeting, while providing supplementary information about market opportunities and business development strategies that would support Daniel's consulting venture success. These materials appeared professionally prepared and suggested external assistance beyond Daniel's individual capabilities. My analysis of the business plan revealed several concerning elements, including unrealistic revenue projections, inadequate risk assessment, and operational assumptions that reflected limited understanding of consulting industry dynamics and competitive challenges that typically prevent rapid growth and profitability for new market entrants. The financial projections assumed customer acquisition rates and project pricing that exceeded industry benchmarks for established consulting firms, while failing to account for marketing investment requirements and operational learning curves that typically characterize successful business development in professional services markets. More significantly, the plan failed to address Daniel's historical pattern of execution difficulties and customer service problems that had undermined his previous business ventures despite adequate initial market opportunities and reasonable operational strategies. The absence of specific measures for addressing these underlying capability gaps suggested continued vulnerability to operational failures. Professional consultation with Meridian colleagues, who specialized in small business development, confirmed my assessment that the funding requirements exceeded reasonable investment levels for unproven consulting operations, while the projected returns appeared inconsistent with market realities for new professional service firms. The independent evaluation provided objective validation for my concerns, while offering alternative approaches that might support Daniel's professional development through less risky investment strategies, such as franchise opportunities or established business partnerships that would provide operational support and market credibility. My response to the family funding request emphasized appreciation for their confidence while outlining concerns about investment risk factors and suggesting alternative approaches that might provide better success probability while requiring lower initial capital commitments and offering operational support that would address Daniel's historical execution challenges. The alternative recommendations included franchise consulting opportunities that would provide proven business models, operational training, and ongoing support systems designed to maximize success probability for entrepreneurs who possessed interpersonal capabilities but lacked experience with business operations and customer service excellence. Additional suggestions focused on employment opportunities within established consulting firms that would provide professional development and industry knowledge while building track record of success that would support future entrepreneurial ventures with improved preparation and capability development. My parents' response to these recommendations revealed their underlying assumptions about family financial obligations and their expectation that trust fund resources should be available for supporting family members regardless of investment merits or risk assessment outcomes. Their disappointment suggested belief that family relationships superseded normal investment evaluation procedures. The subsequent conversation became more direct as my father expressed frustration with my analytical approach to what he characterized as family assistance, rather than commercial investment opportunity. His comments revealed expectation that family loyalty should override financial prudence and risk management principles that would guide investment decisions with non-family members. My mother's contribution emphasized emotional themes about family unity and mutual support obligations, while questioning whether my professional success and financial resources had created distance from family values and commitment to helping others during times of need and opportunity. Their emotional manipulation techniques became increasingly transparent as they abandoned sophisticated influence approaches in favor of direct guilt-based appeals and family loyalty arguments designed to override analytical judgment and risk assessment procedures. Daniel's participation in these follow-up conversations revealed his own expectations about family financial support, while demonstrating limited understanding of investment principles and risk factors that would normally guide funding decisions for business ventures. His assumptions about family resource availability suggested coordination with my parents about trust fund access strategies. The progression from sophisticated business presentation to emotional manipulation tactics confirmed my assessment that their primary objective involved accessing trust fund resources rather than securing appropriate investment for viable business opportunity. Their willingness to abandon professional approaches when analytical evaluation proved unfavorable demonstrated underlying priorities that prioritized financial access over relationship preservation. The family pressure campaign continued for several weeks with increasing frequency of communications and escalating emotional intensity, as my continued resistance to immediate funding commitment frustrated their expectations about family financial obligations and trust fund resource availability. Their persistence confirmed Eleanor's warnings about potential family pressure, while validating my decision to maintain analytical approach to investment evaluation, despite emotional manipulation and family loyalty arguments designed to override prudent financial judgment and risk management principles. The experience provided valuable education about family dynamics and manipulation techniques, while reinforcing my commitment to maintaining independence and analytical discipline, regardless of emotional pressure or relationship consequences that might result from refusing inappropriate financial requests. Looking ahead to the confrontational phase that seemed inevitable as my parents' frustration with my resistance increased, I felt prepared by Eleanor's guidance and professional experience with strategic decision-making under pressure from stakeholders who possessed conflicting objectives and unrealistic expectations about available resources and appropriate risk tolerance levels. The rejection of their initial funding request triggered a systematic escalation campaign that revealed the true extent of my family's desperation and their willingness to employ increasingly aggressive tactics to access my trust fund resources. The transformation from sophisticated business presentation to emotional manipulation and guilt-based appeals demonstrated their underlying belief that family relationships should supersede individual financial judgment and personal boundaries regarding resource allocation decisions. The campaign began with daily phone calls from my mother expressing concern about family unity and questioning whether my professional success had created emotional distance from family values and commitment to mutual support during challenging circumstances. These conversations followed predictable patterns designed to establish guilt regarding my perceived selfishness, while emphasizing family obligation themes that position my resistance as betrayal of fundamental relationship principles. Her messaging emphasized my grandmother Eleanor's commitment to family welfare and suggested that refusing to help Daniel contradicted the values and principles that had guided Eleanor's own financial support for my education and career development. This historical revisionism ignored Eleanor's emphasis on individual accountability and earned assistance while creating false equivalencies between her strategic investment in my proven capabilities and unconditional funding for Daniel's unproven business ventures. The emotional manipulation intensified when my father joined the campaign with arguments about family loyalty and shared responsibility for supporting capable members during critical development phases. His approach emphasized time-sensitive aspects of Daniel's business opportunity while suggesting that my analytical hesitation reflected lack of confidence in family judgment and commitment to collective success. Their coordination became increasingly apparent as conversations reinforced themes developed by other family members while avoiding contradictory messaging that might undermine their collective persuasion efforts. The strategic consistency suggested extensive planning and role assignment, designed to maximize psychological pressure while maintaining plausible framework of family concern and legitimate business opportunity. Daniel's participation in the escalation campaign revealed his own sense of entitlement regarding family financial resources and his expectation that my trust fund should be available for supporting his entrepreneurial ambitions, regardless of investment merits or risk assessment outcomes. His communications expressed frustration with my analytical approach, while questioning my commitment to family advancement and shared prosperity. The progression from respectful business discussion to guilt-based manipulation confirmed my assessment that their primary objective involved accessing trust fund resources rather than securing appropriate investment for viable business opportunity. Their willingness to damage family relationships demonstrated priorities that valued immediate financial access over long-term relationship preservation and individual autonomy. Professional obligations at Meridian provided necessary respite from family pressure while offering objective perspective about decision-making principles and boundary maintenance that preserved both financial security and personal integrity, despite external pressure from stakeholders with conflicting objectives and unrealistic expectations. The contrast between family manipulation tactics and professional relationship dynamics reinforced my understanding of healthy communication patterns and appropriate influence techniques that respected individual autonomy, while achieving legitimate objectives through collaborative problem-solving rather than emotional coercion. Client engagements during this period involved strategic planning challenges that required analytical discipline and objective evaluation of competing alternatives, despite pressure from various stakeholders who possessed different priorities and risk tolerance levels. The professional experience provided practical application of decision-making frameworks that proved relevant for managing family pressure regarding trust fund utilization. Sarah Wellington observed my performance during client meetings and noted my continued effectiveness despite obvious personal stress that might have compromised analytical capabilities or professional judgment during strategic planning activities. Her feedback emphasized my ability to maintain objective assessment procedures while managing external pressure from multiple stakeholder groups with conflicting interests. The validation from professional colleagues reinforced my confidence in analytical approaches, while providing perspective about normal boundaries between personal relationships and financial decision-making that should guide resource allocation regardless of family pressure or emotional manipulation designed to override prudent risk management principles. The escalation campaign reached new intensity when my parents arranged an intervention-style family meeting that included extended family members who expressed concern about my apparent selfishness and lack of commitment to family welfare during Daniel's time of opportunity and need for support. The gathering included my Aunt Margaret and Uncle Thomas, who had been briefed about the situation and coached to express disappointment about my resistance to helping Daniel while emphasizing family tradition of mutual assistance and shared responsibility for supporting capable members during critical development phases. Their participation demonstrated the extent of my parents' coordination efforts while revealing their willingness to involve extended family in private financial matters that should have remained confidential between immediate family members. The breach of privacy indicated desperation that superseded normal relationship boundaries and respect for individual autonomy. The intervention format created formal atmosphere designed to maximize psychological pressure while minimizing my opportunity for private reflection or consultation with trusted advisors who might provide objective perspective about appropriate responses to family financial requests. Extended family members expressed surprise at my apparent reluctance to help Daniel while emphasizing my recent inheritance and professional success as providing resources that should naturally benefit family members who faced temporary challenges or business opportunities that required financial support. Their arguments reflected incomplete information about trust fund structure and investment risk factors while demonstrating my parents' selective presentation of circumstances that supported their preferred narrative about family obligation and appropriate resource utilization. My response emphasized appreciation for family concern while explaining investment evaluation principles and risk assessment procedures that guided financial decision-making, regardless of family relationships or emotional considerations that might override analytical judgment and prudent risk management. The explanation included details about Daniel's historical pattern of business execution difficulties and the objective assessment that indicated high probability of investment loss despite adequate market opportunities and reasonable initial business strategy development. Extended family members appeared surprised by information about Daniel's previous business failures and the pattern of operational challenges that had undermined his entrepreneurial ventures despite adequate funding and market opportunities. Their shock suggested that my parents had presented selective information that omitted relevant context about Daniel's track record and capability limitations. The revelation of complete information shifted conversation dynamics as extended family members began questioning the appropriateness of requesting substantial investment in unproven business ventures, while acknowledging legitimate concerns about risk factors and probability of successful outcomes. My Aunt Margaret expressed particular concern about the financial pressure that my parents had apparently experienced through their previous investments in Daniel's failed ventures, while questioning the wisdom of additional family financial commitments that might jeopardize retirement security and long-term financial stability. The intervention meeting concluded with reduced pressure and acknowledged need for thorough evaluation of investment merits rather than immediate commitment, based primarily on family relationships and emotional obligations. The outcome represented significant victory for analytical approach, while preserving family relationships through respectful communication and objective information sharing. However, the temporary reduction in family pressure proved deceptive as my parents' desperation intensified following the unsuccessful intervention attempt. Their subsequent communications revealed increased frustration and willingness to employ more aggressive tactics that abandoned pretense of legitimate business opportunity in favor of direct emotional manipulation and guilt-based appeals. The transformation became apparent through increasingly frequent and hostile communications that questioned my character and values, while suggesting that my professional success had created arrogance and selfishness that prevented appropriate family support during times of genuine need and opportunity. My mother's calls included accusations about my lack of gratitude for family support during my education and career development, while emphasizing Eleanor's disappointment that her financial investment had produced someone unwilling to help family members during challenging circumstances. These historical distortions ignored the actual context of Eleanor's support and her explicit guidance about maintaining independence, while avoiding enabling behavior that prevented individual accountability and personal development. The revisionist narrative served their immediate objectives, while contradicting documented facts about Eleanor's values and expectations. My father's contributions to the escalation campaign included threats about family relationship consequences, and suggestions that my continued resistance would result in permanent damage to family unity and my exclusion from future family activities and celebrations. The threats represented escalation to coercive tactics designed to override analytical judgment through fear of relationship loss, while demonstrating their willingness to sacrifice family cohesion for immediate financial access to trust fund resources. Daniel's participation in the escalation campaign revealed his own psychological investment in viewing family resources as available for his benefit, while expressing resentment about my individual success and financial independence that highlighted his continued dependence and lack of professional achievement. His communications included personal attacks about my character and suggestions that my analytical approach reflected emotional coldness and lack of family loyalty that contradicted normal expectations about sibling relationships and mutual support obligations. The personal nature of these attacks indicated frustration with his own circumstances while demonstrating his adoption of my parents' narrative about family financial obligations and appropriate resource sharing that prioritized his needs over individual property rights and personal boundaries. The escalating hostility confirmed my assessment that continued engagement with family pressure would require accepting inappropriate financial demands or enduring increasing emotional abuse designed to punish my resistance to their expectations about trust fund access and utilization. The situation had progressed beyond reasonable family disagreement to include systematic emotional manipulation and coercive pressure that threatened both my financial security and psychological well-being if I continued attempting to preserve relationships while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Professional consultation with Patricia Morrison provided legal perspective about family pressure tactics and confirmed that their behavior constituted harassment designed to access financial resources through emotional coercion rather than legitimate investment evaluation and voluntary agreement. Patricia's assessment emphasized my right to make independent financial decisions without family interference, while outlining legal remedies available if their pressure campaign continued escalating toward more aggressive tactics or threats that might constitute criminal harassment or attempted financial exploitation. The legal consultation provided confidence that my resistance to family pressure was not only financially prudent but legally protected against coercive tactics designed to override individual autonomy and property rights through emotional manipulation and relationship threats. Looking ahead to the inevitable confrontation that would result from my continued resistance to inappropriate financial demands, I felt prepared by professional experience with strategic decision-making under pressure, while maintaining ethical standards and analytical discipline that guided resource allocation decisions regardless of external pressure or relationship consequences. The escalation campaign reached its zenith when my family's frustration with my continued resistance prompted them to abandon direct persuasion attempts in favor of deceptive strategies designed to access trust fund resources without my knowledge or consent. This fundamental shift from emotional manipulation to outright fraud represented a critical boundary violation that would permanently alter our family relationships, while revealing the true extent of their desperation and moral flexibility. The transition from aggressive persuasion to criminal deception occurred gradually over several weeks, as my parents realized that continued pressure was unlikely to produce voluntary compliance with their financial expectations. Their communications became less frequent but more cordial, suggesting acceptance of my position while expressing understanding about my need for thorough investment evaluation and risk assessment. This apparent reconciliation felt suspicious given the intensity of their previous pressure campaign and their obvious disappointment with my analytical approach to their funding request. The sudden shift from hostility to acceptance seemed calculated rather than genuine, suggesting strategic repositioning rather than authentic resolution of our underlying disagreement about family financial obligations. My father's communications during this period included apologies for the family pressure and acknowledgement that my professional training naturally required careful evaluation of investment opportunities, regardless of family relationships. His conciliatory tone contrasted sharply with his previous threats about relationship consequences, while maintaining subtle references to Daniel's continued financial needs and business development challenges. These messages appeared designed to restore cordial relationships, while gathering information about trust fund structure and access procedures that might facilitate alternative approaches to securing financial resources for Daniel's ventures. The strategic nature of his inquiries became apparent through his specific questions about account management and transaction authorization procedures. My mother's contributions to this apparent reconciliation included expressions of pride regarding my professional achievements and acknowledgement that Eleanor would have appreciated my careful approach to financial stewardship and investment evaluation. Her comments seemed designed to rebuild emotional connections while positioning themselves favorably for future assistance requests. The coordinated nature of their communications suggested extensive planning about how to restore family relationships while maintaining access to potential funding sources for Daniel's continued business development activities. Their strategic patience indicated sophisticated understanding of influence techniques and long-term relationship management. Daniel's participation in the reconciliation effort included expressions of understanding about my investment concerns, while emphasizing his commitment to addressing the operational challenges that had undermined his previous business ventures. His willingness to acknowledge past failures appeared genuine, while serving strategic objectives related to rebuilding family unity and trust. The family's apparent acceptance of my position provided temporary relief from emotional pressure while creating space for focus on professional responsibilities and strategic planning activities at Meridian that required concentrated attention and analytical thinking without external distractions or relationship conflicts. Partnership responsibilities during this period included oversight of the acquisition integration project and development of new service offerings that would position Meridian for expansion into emerging technology markets. These strategic initiatives demanded sophisticated analysis and creative problem-solving that utilized the same analytical frameworks that guided my assessment of family investment requests. The professional success and recognition that resulted from these initiatives reinforced my confidence in analytical decision-making approaches, while providing objective validation of capabilities that family pressure had attempted to undermine through emotional manipulation and guilt-based appeals designed to override prudent judgment. Client feedback regarding my strategic recommendations and project management capabilities confirmed that maintaining analytical discipline despite external pressure had preserved professional effectiveness while building reputation for reliable judgment and ethical decision-making that distinguished my contributions within competitive consulting markets. The contrast between professional recognition and family manipulation tactics highlighted the importance of maintaining consistent principles regardless of relationship context or emotional pressure designed to compromise individual autonomy and decision-making independence. However, the apparent family reconciliation proved to be strategic deception designed to create opportunity for accessing trust fund resources through fraudulent documentation and unauthorized transaction attempts that would circumvent my analytical resistance to inappropriate financial requests. The deception began with my father's request for trust fund account information that he claimed was needed for estate planning coordination and tax preparation activities related to Eleanor's inheritance and its integration with family financial planning strategies. His explanation seemed reasonable while serving ulterior motives that I did not recognize at the time. My willingness to provide general account information reflected trust in family relationships, and assumption that their apparent acceptance of my position represented genuine resolution of our disagreement about investment funding rather than strategic repositioning for alternative access approaches. The information I shared included bank contact details and general account structure without specific authorization procedures or security protocols that protected against unauthorized access attempts. This limited disclosure reflected my attempt to maintain family transparency while preserving appropriate boundaries regarding financial privacy and security. My father's follow-up questions about account management procedures and transaction authorization requirements seemed consistent with legitimate estate planning coordination, while actually serving reconnaissance purposes for developing fraudulent access strategies that would bypass my analytical resistance to inappropriate funding requests. The sophisticated nature of his information gathering suggested extensive research about trust fund structures and banking procedures that would enable systematic attempts to access resources without triggering security protocols or alerting me to unauthorized activity until transactions were completed. Several weeks after providing the requested account information, I received a routine portfolio statement from First National Trust Services that included transaction summaries and investment performance data for the previous quarter. The documentation appeared normal until careful review revealed reference to pending transaction authorization that I had not initiated or approved. The pending transaction involved withdrawal of $450,000 for investment in business development activities, with documentation that apparently included my authorization signature. The amount represented nearly the entire liquid portion of my trust fund balance and would have provided more than adequate funding for Daniel's consulting venture and additional capital for future business activities. My immediate reaction was shock, followed by anger, as I realized that my family had attempted to access trust fund resources through fraudulent documentation, while maintaining pretense of accepting my investment decision and respecting my financial independence. The deception represented fundamental violation of trust that transcended normal family disagreements about financial assistance and mutual support obligations. The discovery prompted immediate contact with Margaret Chen to confirm transaction details and implement security measures that would prevent completion of unauthorized withdrawal attempts, while preserving evidence of fraudulent activity for potential legal proceedings against family members who had violated both personal trust and banking regulations. Margaret's review of transaction documentation revealed sophisticated forgery attempts that included falsified signatures and fabricated authorization letters that appeared designed to pass preliminary banking verification procedures. The quality of the forgeries suggested professional assistance or extensive research about document authentication requirements. The fraudulent documentation included detailed justifications for fund withdrawal that referenced investment opportunities and business development activities that aligned with strategic financial planning objectives. The explanations appeared professionally prepared and suggested coordination with individuals who possessed expertise in financial planning and investment documentation procedures. Margaret's assessment confirmed that the transaction would have been processed without my knowledge if routine portfolio review had not revealed the pending authorization status. The timing suggested that my family had calculated that quarterly reporting cycles would provide sufficient processing time for completing unauthorized transactions before discovery occurred. The sophistication of the fraud attempt indicated extensive planning and coordination that went beyond impulsive, poor judgment to include systematic criminal activity designed to access substantial financial resources through deception and document falsification. The calculated nature of their actions demonstrated willingness to violate both legal and ethical boundaries for immediate financial gain. Banking security procedures required comprehensive investigation of the fraud attempt, including forensic analysis of falsified documentation and coordination with law enforcement agencies that specialized in financial crimes and identity theft cases. The institutional response reflected the serious nature of the violations and potential criminal charges that could result from prosecution. Margaret explained that banking regulations required reporting suspected fraud attempts to federal authorities, regardless of family relationships or personal preferences about criminal prosecution. The institutional obligations superseded individual choices about legal proceedings, while ensuring appropriate investigation and documentation of criminal activity. The legal implications of the fraud attempt extended beyond immediate criminal charges to include civil liability for attempted theft and potential restitution requirements that could impact my parents' financial security and property ownership. The comprehensive consequences reflected the serious nature of their violations and the institutional commitment to protecting client assets against unauthorized access. Professional consultation with Patricia Morrison confirmed that the fraud attempt constituted multiple criminal violations, including identity theft, document falsification, and attempted grand theft that warranted aggressive prosecution, regardless of family relationships or emotional considerations that might encourage more lenient responses. Patricia's assessment emphasized that criminal prosecution would provide necessary protection against future fraud attempts while establishing legal precedents that would deter similar violations by family members or others who might view my financial resources as accessible through manipulation or deception. The legal consultation also addressed civil remedies, including restraining orders and asset protection measures that would prevent future access attempts while preserving evidence of criminal activity for ongoing investigation and prosecution proceedings. The discovery of systematic fraud attempts validated Eleanor's concerns about potential family pressure, while confirming the wisdom of her legal protections and security measures that had prevented successful completion of unauthorized transactions. Her foresight in anticipating family manipulation had provided essential safeguards that preserved trust fund integrity despite sophisticated criminal attempts. The revelation of criminal deception marked a fundamental shift in family relationships that could not be reconciled through normal conflict resolution or emotional appeals about family unity and mutual forgiveness. The calculated nature of their fraud attempts indicated priorities that valued immediate financial access over family relationships and personal integrity. Looking ahead to criminal prosecution and civil proceedings that would formally address their violations while protecting my financial security against future fraud attempts, I felt prepared by professional experience with ethical decision-making and legal compliance that guided responses to serious violations regardless of personal relationships or emotional considerations that might encourage inappropriate compromises. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.